Welcome to IFA. I fix everything. Today's project is to reinstall all 4 brake calipers that were rebuilt as part of the Pontiac Fiero seized brake caliper series. The front brakes are the easiest to install. Let's start there. It's easier to install the left-hand brake caliper when the steering wheel is turned all the way to the right. This will tip the caliper out of the wheel well and give you more access. Carefully guide the brake rotor between the brake pads and rest the shoulder against the upper boss. Press and hold the caliper against the upper boss and rotate the lower shoulder into position. Here's a close-up of the passenger side brake caliper installation as the lower shoulder is rotated into position. To install the upper caliper bolt, rotate the bolt as you ease the caliper away from the seated position. This will engage the threads. Install the upper bolt loosely and then move on to the lower. An alternate method is to use a large Phillips screwdriver. Original equipment bolts require a Torx bit. Aftermarket bolts often require a hexagon bit. The brake calipers are made of aluminum. Tighten the bolts evenly from top to bottom to prevent binding the brakes or distorting the caliper. Brake calipers contain 2 bolts, therefore they have no torquing sequence. I choose to torque the brakes in 2 stages to improve the pressure balance. I use approximately 2/3 of the final torque for the initial stage. My initial stage is 20 to 25 foot-pounds. The full torque value is 30 to 45 foot-pounds. It's important to clean the brake rotors with alcohol to remove any body oils prior to installation. I use the wheel studs as a fixture as I clean the rotor, first the back, then the front. The rear brake calipers are installed the same as the front. Rest the upper shoulder against the boss and pivot the caliper into position. Start the upper brake caliper bolt first and leave it loose. This will allow the caliper to pivot on it as a fulcrum, aligning the lower bolt. Now alternate from top to bottom, seating both bolts evenly. The torque wrench does not have the same clearance on the rear caliper bolts as the front, so caution must be taken to prevent damage to the torque wrench. If a torque wrench is dropped or knocked, it should be checked for calibration. The torque specification and procedure is the same for the rear calipers. I torque in 2 stages. Both rear brake hoses are new, so I'm removing the brake hose mount bolt prior to installation. This will allow the hose to seat properly against the caliper without undue stress. It's recommended that both copper sealing washers be replaced anytime the hose is open. Install 1 sealing washer on each side of the hose boss. I seated the banjo bolt and then reinstalled the brake hose mount bolt. The banjo bolt torque is 15 foot-pounds. The brake hose clip is 13 foot-pounds. The emergency brake cable installation is next. If it's installed with the bracket, it's 24 to 38 foot-pounds of torque with a Torx bit socket. If you don't have the right Torx socket, you can remove it with a hose clamp. It's a simple procedure requiring no special tools. Lubricate the clip and tighten a hose clamp till it's fully seated on the ears of the clip. Then loosen the hose clamp slightly, allowing the hose clamp to turn. This will allow the cable to pull free from the back. Slip the emergency brake cable through the hole in the mounting bracket. Grip the swedge with a pair of vice grips and give it a firm snap. This will seat the cable and engage the spring clip. Slide the balance spring over the cable and seat it against the mount bracket. Be sure the cable has enough slack to exit the balance spring. Once again, there's a specialty tool for compressing the balance spring. I've used a large screwdriver in the past, but I found an automotive trim tool works the best. A picture is worth 1,000 words. I just load the video down so you can see it. Place the emergency brake cable in the locking cutout. I support the emergency brake cable lever arm with vice grips as I torque it to 30 to 40 foot-pounds. This prevents the piston actuator from being rotated. Be sure the lever arm is seated after it's torqued. Now is a great time to lubricate the ball joints and tie rod ends. Be sure to clean the area around the grease zerk prior to lubricating it. This will prevent contamination from being forced into the grease cavity. Check for water and contamination and clean up any squeeze out. The rear end only has 2 fittings, 1 ball joint and 1 tie rod end. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for the next installment of the Pontiac Fiero Seized Brake Caliper. Remember, subscribers are always welcome.